guys, so let's jump in to another exciting Torah portion. All right, we got a really lot of stuff going on here in this week's Torah portion. What I want to talk about is the story about the manna. Okay, let's go through what happened, and then we're going to see there's a lot of difficulties with the story. What happened? The Jews they got the Torah Mount Sinai. They're at Mount Sinai. Now God is ready to bring them into the Holy Land. They're going into the land of Israel. And there are a few things that go awry, and it begins this process where they end up doing things, and they eventually get decreed to be in the desert for 40 years. So there are a few things that go awry. First, the cloud that leads them starts to go fast to lead them into the land of Israel. They complain, it's too hard, okay, this and that, and that was one problem. Then the second problem is what I want to talk about tonight. The second thing that happens is, all of a sudden, the people called the Asaf Suf are, in English they call them the rabble-rousers, but what that really means is that was the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav were the mixed multitudes that were Egyptians and came out with the Jews. So they kind of were not really part of the Jewish people, but they were Egyptians that took on Jewish customs, and there was a whole debate whether they should come with the Jewish people out of Egypt. Moshe thought to bring them, and he did. Now these people, the rabble-rousers, the Asaf Suf, they started a complaint. The complaint department was opened. And everyone joined in on their complaint. Now, what was their complaint? What were they complaining about? What they were complaining about was, they said, it says, the rabble-rousers, hisavu taiva. They desired to have a desire. They desired what? They wanted meat. They complained. And everyone said, yeah, they're right. We need some meat. We need a good steak. Something good. We all day, what are we eating? We're eating this manna stuff. We're eating the man. Enough of the man. We don't want the man. Now, that's very strange. Why is that strange? Because the man was spiritual food. And you've probably heard the man was this amazing, miraculous food that God brought down in the desert every day for 40 years, which, by the way, is a very different miracle than a one-time miracle. This happened every single day. I don't know if you guys realize, but we had a jar of the manna that was stored in the temple for another 1,000 years afterwards. Because it says in the text that God said to Moshe to store the man and to keep it in the jar to show the future generations what the Jews ate in the desert. And they had it through the time of the judges, they had it through the time of the first temple. It says that Jeremiah took it out, Jeremiah took it out and said, look what you ate in the temple. You could trust God, don't be so nervous. So they had, this jar of man for many years until the first temple was destroyed, everything was hidden. But the man was special food. Now, what are some of the qualities of man? One of the qualities of man was that whenever you would want it to taste like, it would taste like. So it was miraculous food. Okay, it had an incredible ability that if you thought about steak, it would be steak. If you thought about, ice cream, it was ice cream. Wow. All right. Well, so that's amazing. Could be there were a few things that didn't taste like. The Talmud says there were certain things that were unhealthy for pregnant women that it didn't taste like. It didn't have garlic or onion, different things that were not, which means that it probably must have taken the characteristics of these things you were thinking about. But the mind could taste like anything you wanted to. It had an incredible taste. And it was amazing. And it was miraculous food. It fell down every day. Erev Shabbat and Friday, it fell down 2 times. Shabbat didn't fall at all. and it was this miraculous food. So people are complaining, we don't want man, enough of the man. We want meat. So first question is, what's the problem? Man is great. Man is like, it's called the spiritual food of the angels. It doesn't have you want to taste anyway. So what are your problem with the man? The man's great. It's amazing. Another problem, even worse than that maybe, is it says that they actually had cattle. If you look at the text, it says they had cattle, they had sheep, they came out of Egypt with a lot of stuff. So if you want a steak, go, you have cattle. What's the problem? So that's problem number one. Why complain against the man? The man is amazing. Why are you complaining against it? And the text says, no, the man was amazing. It was like crystal. It was beautiful like crystal. And it had this amazing taste. Okay, that's question one. Now, so what happens when they complain about the man? So Moshe says to God, okay, I cannot bear this people. Am I their mother that I gave birth to them? That now I should have to carry them like their nurse? I can't do this. I can't handle it. I'm not their mother. And God says to him, okay, you know what? Fine. Get the 70 elders, you're going to have 70 elders, and they're going to help you. They want meat. You got a problem with this? You say you're not their mother, and I'm going to get the 70 elders. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you've read the story in the Bible and Torah, you realize that Moses never complains about people. Everything they do, he's like, okay, I'll find a way. He deals with them. All of a sudden, for some reason, when they ask for meat instead of the man, Moshe says, I can't. I'm not their mother. I'm not their mother. I'm not their nurse. I can't go and carry them to nurse them. I can't do it. I can't. Too hard for me. Why? Moshe, you had no problem before. They did a lot of things that weren't so good. You never had a problem before. They complained on the Red Sea. They complained they had no water. But now it's the play with the man. You're like, whoa, I'm out of here. Well, why? Okay. That's what happens then. Now, God says to that Moshe, okay, I'm going to give them meat. I'm going to give them meat. So Moshe says, wait a minute. How is that possible? There are 600,000 army-aged people. What are they gonna? Are they gonna slaughter all the animals in the world? How can you give them all the meat? There's so much. So God says to him, Hayash and Tiksar, is it possible that I can't do whatever I want to do? Now, ladies and gentlemen, when you read the text, it's baffling because Moshe, who is completely trusts God in every way, and he's saying to him, wow, this is like impossible? How could that be? There's no way that Moshe could actually believe that. Moshe, who is so trustworthy to God, he's going to ask, how is it possible to give them all this meat? What kind of question is that? What did Moshe mean? And you read the words in the text, it's really strange. Okay, it seems that Moshe is questioning God in a way of saying, can he do it? Which, God forbid, is not true. So what was Moshe's problem? What was he saying? There's so many of them. What are they going to catch all the fish in the world? Will be enough? Okay, whatever. It's Hashem will give them. Okay. That's my other problem. Now I got a few more problems I want to just kind of go through the story with you. So what happens is, then Hashem makes it, now first Hashem makes it there's going to be the 70 elders. Okay, well, the way it works was there are 12 tribes. There were 6 people from each tribe that were potentially going to be the 70 elders. Okay, so 6 times 12 is 72. There's 2 extra. So 2 guys cannot become the elders. So Moshe, he takes 72 paid papers. He writes on them an elder, and on 2 of them he leaves a blank. And they're supposed to all come and draw the lots to see which God chooses of the 70 elders, and 2 will be out. Now, 2 of them back out. 2 of them say, no, there's 2 guys, Eldad and Moses, say that we're not worthy. We're not going to do this. We're not worthy. And what happens is God gives them a blessing, and they start to prophesize. They prophesize. What's their prophecy? I'll tell you in a minute. It's unbelievable what their prophecy is. But they prophesize. Okay, now the 70 elders are there, and God brings down the slav. The slav is, I don't know, it's called quail in English. I don't know what exactly slav looks like. It was something that God brought, a meat that he brought for the people who were complaining, saying, we don't want the man. Now, this meat was not necessarily for their good. There's a discussion they had. They got this meat. Other times, possibly another discussion. But the meat that they got now was not for their good. Because you know why? Because it says since they were complaining, they didn't want the man. They wanted the meat. So what happened was this meat was bad for them. It says some people ate it and they died on the spot. Other people ate it and died after 2 days. Some people ate it and died after 5 days. Some people ate it and died after 10 days. And some people, a whole month they ate it and they died. And this was like a punishment for these people who were rejecting the manna, the man, they wanted the meat. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a question. What happens if you went into a restaurant and you saw a guy biting into a hamburger and dropping dead? Would you say pass the ketchup? Right? You wouldn't keep eating it. So if they saw people were dying, why'd they keep eating it? It's amazing. It says some of them died immediately. Some of them died, and some lasted a whole month before they died. So I don't understand something. If this quail is killing them, why do they keep eating it? Okay, so they get the quail, they get the slab, they eat it, and some people die right away. Some people die over a period of time of 30 days, and they die. And that is their punishment. And then it says the place where they died was called Kivrat Tava. Kivrat Tava means the burial place of those who desired. And this place was a place that was a bad punishment for them. They wanted this quail, they rejected the manna, and then what happened was when they ate it, some people died right away, some after 30 days, and then they buried the people who had this desire, and it was a punishment, and then that was it. Now, it's so weird, so strange. I understand this. Why are they complaining against the manna? The manna was great. It could taste like meat. They even had meat. What was Moshe saying? How could you give them all this stuff? And why did Moshe say, I need elders to be with me. I'm not their mother. And then afterwards, some keep dying. Why? And after they die, the next story in the Torah is even stranger. All of a sudden, for some strange reason, Moshe's brother, starts speaking against Moshe. And she gets leprosy. Now, let me tell you the story of what Miriam said against Moses, and then we'll understand, we'll try to tie this whole thing together. What happened was that that I mentioned to you there were 72 potential elders, 6 from each tribe, but 2 of them backed out. 2 of them, Eldad made that, said, we're not worthy. And a God gave them as a present, they started prophesying. Okay, I'll tell you what the prophecy was a little bit later, because the prophecy is unbelievable. When they're prophesying, a person came in, a young lad came in and said, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the tent, in the camp. They're prophesying. So Moshe's wife, Tzipporah, said, oh no, their wife's going to have a hard time because they're going to separate from their spouse. So Miriam said to Aaron, what's Moshe doing? Moshe separated from his wife? He's not supposed to do that. We don't believe that. If you are a prophet, you can still have a husband and wife. We don't believe in that. Well, why did Moshe separate from Tzipporah? He did the wrong thing. We're prophets and we're married. And then God comes to him and says, no, you're different than Moshe. I speak to Moshe at any time, at any moment. And Moshe, he decided to do it on his own, but he was right. And Miriam gets saras, she gets leprosy because she spoke against Moshe. Why did she speak against Moshe? And why was she so upset? And why did this happen now? Let me try to explain this. All right, those are all my questions. We're going to try to tie this all together and understand an amazing, amazing thing. It's like this. Let's understand man. What is manna? What is man? The man, how could it taste like everything? How's that possible? Okay, it's a miracle, but how does it taste like everything? And the answer is because man is spiritual food. When you have a food, let's say you have salty, you have corn chips. They're salty. There's a vessel, and it contains in it this quality of saltiness. Everything in the world has its own quality. If you take what's called, let's say, white light, and you run it through a prism, what happens? It turns into the colors of the rainbow. So there are different 7 colors of the rainbow, but there's the ability of the white light to hold all the colors. Food is a specific physical thing. It's salty, it's spicy, it's sweet, whatever it is. But if you can get to the spiritual root of the food, it's like the white light that contains all possibilities. That was the man. The man was this spiritual food, and that's why I said it was like crystal. It was clear. It was like a spiritual thing that contained all the possibilities inside of it. That's what the manna was. That's why it was so amazing, because it was literally spiritual food. And therefore, it could taste like opposite tastes of food, because it wasn't a regular limited food. A limited food is, it could be this, salty, spicy. You can't have both at the same time, right? But in the man, since it was beyond that, it was a spiritual entity, it contained in it all of the different qualities that food could have. So the Jews are eating the manna. And what's happening to them? They're transforming. They're becoming spiritual entities. That's what's happening. They feel themselves changing. They feel themselves becoming not out of the human normal realm. A person likes that physical things. A person, if you think about it a second, when you eat food, it's not just the food. There's a whole experience of eating. I heard from one of my rabbis once. He said that one time he was ill, and he was on IV for like 2 weeks. He was really sick, and if he got all this nourishment from the IV, but it wasn't enough, because at a certain point you want to hold a cup of coffee. Hey, Mickey, good to see you. You want to hold a cup of coffee. You want to take the hamburger and eat it. So what happens is that the Jewish people, when they were eating the manna, they were losing their context of being in a physical world. They were entering into a new dimension. So they were getting their physical nourishment, but it wasn't like eating food. It was like eating. Somehow you were alive, but you were disconnecting from the physical world. And that was their problem. And that's what it says. It says, his avutava. It didn't say they desired meat. It said they desired desire itself. Because they felt that, oh, wow, we're getting so spiritual, it's trying to scare us. Where's the grounding thing? Where's the hamburger? Where's the thing that I feel I'm in this physical world? They started and it was true. They were becoming spiritual entities. And that's why the Asaf Suf, the lower level people, the Erev Rav, they start complaining, oh, this is not good. And the people bought into this. That's why Moshe says to them, I'm not their mother. What am I? I'm their rabbi. If they accept me as their rabbi, then I can teach them. You can't divorce your mother. Sorry. That's not the way it works. Your mother. Your rabbi, as long as you accept what he's teaching you, then he can teach you. If you're not accepting the mother, no matter what, she's your mother. So Moshe is saying to them, I'm not their mother, I'm their rabbi. I'm Moshe Rabbeinu. He's called Moshe, our teacher. So I'm the rabbi. My quality is man. I'm a spiritual. Moshe went up to the heavens to get the Torah. He had this spiritual quality no one else had. I can elevate them to my spiritual level. But if they don't want it, if they don't want my approach, what can I do? I'm not their mother. I have to give them an approach. I give them the man. The man is like my spiritual approach. They want to be physical. I can't teach them. So God said, yeah, you're right. We got to bring it down and bring it down to these 70 elders. The meat's not coming through you. You're higher than that. The meat's going to come through them. Now, why did the Moshe goes? He says, listen, but wait a minute. How could you give him so much? Now, Moshe wasn't saying, God, it's too much for you to do. Of course, that's what he was saying. What he's saying was they were looking for an excuse. Because the man tasted like anything they wanted. And they had meat. They had cattle. So Moshe is saying that they're looking for an excuse. So, God, how do you go and give somebody who's looking like, if you deal with somebody who's looking for a reason not to do something, you give them all the best reasons in the world, it'll never work, right? Somebody who knows, you say, listen, it's not a good thing for you, but they want to do it. They find all these rationalizations. They're looking for an excuse. It's not real. So Moshe said to God, even if you give them everything, but that's not their problem. They're looking for an excuse to get away from the spiritual world they're going into. But God said, no, you don't understand. I can do everything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to expose their lie. How did God expose their lie? They get the manna. They get the slav. They get this quail. And they start eating it. Some guys eat it one day and they die. So I said to you, so they ate it one day, they died. Why did the next guy eat it? Why did the guy eat it for 2 days? Why did he eat it for 5 days? If you see the guy dying next to you eating the sandwich, I can eat the sandwich. So the reason was because it showed them that they were stuck in their desire. They could not get out of it. If you see a person who's stuck in it, who's addicted to something, it's bad for them, but they're stuck. They're stuck in the thing. Since they wanted this world of desire, that's all they wanted. They wanted to cut away from the spiritual connection. So they were stuck now. And therefore they ate it one day and they said, oh, this is good. We got to keep eating it. Oh, but it's bad for you. The guy next to them just died. But they can't stop. Because now what God is showing them is that you had all the things you wanted. You had the taste of meat. You had actual meat. But you're looking for an excuse. You're looking for a way to disconnect from the spiritual journey I'm bringing you on by trying to go back into a lower physical world. That's what you're doing? Okay, now I'm going to show you you're stuck in that. And ladies and gentlemen, that really is the lesson of this whole story of the man. You see, when we want physical desires for the sake of physical desires, that's an endless pit. You can't get out of that. That's what Talmud says. If you have 100, you want 200. You have 1,000,000, you want 2,000,000. Because anything that you want, it's physical. You think, oh, this physical thing is going to satisfy me. It's like a drug addict. This physical thing's going to satisfy me. This is going to make my life meaningful. Okay, I take it now, and it didn't work. So what do I got to do? I got to rev it up. I got to take a higher dose. I need more. That's the world of physical desire, because it's limited to this physical thing. The momentary sensation you got because you had it is gone. And now where are you? You're, I don't know, I got to have more of it. And therefore, when the person is trapped in the physical world, they literally can't get out of it because they want more and more. And that's what you see a lot of people that don't want to think too much about their lives, and they're on this like train. They're like, okay, my business. But there's a certain point where they have to have more because it's like a drug. It's this thing didn't satisfy me. If I get more, it'll satisfy me. But it doesn't. I have to get more. The only way the physical world is going to satisfy someone is when the physical thing that you have is now a means, a stepping stone to something that's meaningful. So if you want to get, let's say, I don't know, you have now a house. And the house you see as something to give you a settled mind, to be able to grow spiritually, to have meaningful, to have love, to have connection. Then the house, the physical thing, becomes something meaningful. But when it's just the physical itself, it becomes a drug. It becomes, okay, I want this. That's not enough. I need more. That was the message of Kivrat Hatava. What happened was, these people, when they felt themselves getting spiritual and transforming, they got afraid. They said, we're not used to this. We want to stay in the physical world. So they made the excuse to we got to get that physicality back. But the physicality that they wanted was an endless pit. Because I got one, I need two. I got two, I need four. And that was the lesson. That's why in the end it was called Kivrat Hatava, the burial place of desire. And the commentators say they buried those that had desire. I'd like to maybe add another way to say it. It was the burial place of false desire. It was the burial place of desire itself that was not used for good. Because desire is a very powerful and important quality. But it's also very dangerous. The sages tell us that if there was no desire, then the world would stop. Because basically you would just say, all right, you know what? I don't care. So desire is something that a person has a feeling towards. And it motivates him. But if it motivates him and it's only staying in the physical realm, it becomes the undoing. Let me just qualify. There's two different things to understand. There's one thing called tava, and there's one thing called chukah. Tava is a desire for something outside of yourself. Chukah is called a desire for something that's within you. Every person has a desire to fulfill something that's inside of themselves. That you need to go for. Every person has that. It's always compared to drinking water or drinking, because when a person's parched, they feel like, I need the water now. Every person has a feeling of, I need to accomplish. I need to do something. I need to be meaningful. I need to have something that is going to make a difference. That is not even called a desire. That's called a chukah. That's called an internal need that needs to be fulfilled. And that's the way the world is. That's the way the world is. That people have certain lacking, and the fulfillment of it is the thing that they need to get. That is something that everyone needs to pursue, because that's built into the system to fill that, because that's who you are. So if you don't feel you're expressing yourself, there's a good reason for that, because that lack is meant to be there for you to fulfill. That's called chukah. That's called yearning for what is really inside you to be fulfilled. Tava is yearning for something outside yourself. Now, that's not a bad thing. A person could yearn for something outside of themselves. But that's where the danger starts. Because when I yearn for something outside of myself, it's not like grab for things that are beyond who I am. Grab things that are not good for me. Grab things that are negative. Ta'ava, the desire for things outside of me, can be good too. And that's when you use them for a directed purpose. The physical things you desire, when you see them and you want them for a purpose that is greater than the thing itself, then there could be a place to take that. But when it becomes a desire for the thing itself and doesn't serve a greater purpose, that's always going to blow a person up. And that's represented when they're eating the meat. They can't stop, even though people are dying, but they can't stop because they unleashed this part of themselves that just wanted to be soaked in that physical pleasure, and it was an ends to itself, and then it doesn't lead any place. And then you need to eat more of it, and more of it, and more of it. And that was the challenge that they had, because this was the process where they were living in the desert first to become spiritual entities and then move into the physical land of Israel. But what God was doing was he was raising them to a high spiritual level before they got into the physical world of Israel and planted things. And when they felt that this was something they were uncomfortable, it was a fear. It was a fear of literally breaking away from the physical. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we have to do is we have to go and say, a person could become more spiritual, and the physical things that we do want and sometimes need are very, very valuable, as long as they are not the thing itself, because that will be the dead end and lead to nowhere and just blow a person away from the things they contain. That's the thought for the day. Let's open some questions, thoughts, and comments. Rod, I can't hear you.
Yeah, we're going to... Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'll just have them unmute the mic and ask you the question instead of unmuting everyone. It can turn into a mess. Let me just ask you: is there a correlation somehow with the 10 spies, that they saw the land not as promised, but as too much responsibility, and it's going to overtake us? It's going to consume us.
Yeah,
it's almost sort of the same kind of like fear of progress or fear of going to another place. It's like it was too much.
Yeah. We'll talk about the spies when we get there, but the spies are in this process, and I forgot to tie this last piece together. So maybe, Rod, you have to somehow cut this into the first part. Yeah. But it just reminded me that's also what happened with the story of Miriam, because what happened was this was the break between Moshe and his people. Once this happened and they rejected the manna, they made a break with them and Moshe. And that's why the people that were prophesizing, they were prophesizing that Moshe was going to die in the desert and Joshua was going to lead them in. That was their prophecy. And so this was the beginning of the potential break between Moshe and the people. And that's why Miriam, his loving sister, spoke badly about it. Not because she didn't love him, but she was like, you're detaching from the way that we function. You're functioning at a level, way above us, and we're not going to be able to be with you. She was trying to bring Moshe into the people, but she didn't understand that the people had to come up to Moshe. Moshe wasn't going down to the people. Moshe brought the Torah down from the heavens. He was above, and the people had to come up to his level. And that was the beginning of this chain reaction that Rod's asking about, which is we're going to see it's going to culminate in the story of the spies, because this is the beginning of a break between a certain process that was happening that they got scared about. And sometimes it happens in our lives, whatever, things that scare us, because things are new, things are different. For them, it was coming to this great, great spiritual level that became frightening, and they pulled back from that level of Moshe, and this is going to start a sort of chain reaction to lead things up where they can't go into the land of Israel with Moshe on that supernatural level, but they go in on a much lower level. Called Joshua is like the moon, and Moshe is like the sun.